and get the safety you'd expect. The fuel efficiency you need, and America's best truck warranty. Kids and Nissan's Take On 2017 event for 0% financing for up to 72 months on 11 models, or save up to $10,000 on select models.
From the Young Turks. We are here live in Flint at the Water Forum, which just finished. If you guys are watching live, it got lively.
Excuse me, sir. You know what you sir? You've been sticking in it for years. You're not going to fight the book. You know me. So he ain't qualified. You ain't nothing but a fake open state. That works and only 150 cents wrong. You're telling me it's all that freaking money? No, you didn't spend all the damn money passing home. You hadn't been in my house lately. My house is right there. There's no solution to this problem. You got a lot of freaking money. I think that's the difference. He didn't roll around the dirt. He didn't like the water. No. You guys are ridiculous. I know.
We like that now. No, I told you I can't write because this water's messed up my freaking way of thinking. Your son? No, son. Yeah, yeah. Oh, really? You're a dad. So then you should understand. Yeah, he's upset because you guys don't listen. I've had 60 people say something. Excuse me. Let me say something because you know what? This is one of the things we talk about. And people in Flint are made up. People in Flint are angry. Let me talk, please. We're angry and we've been waiting for this. And we have, we've got some issues that we've got to deal with. And people have to, one of the things we've talked about is people have to allow us to have the feelings that we have. Because it's been bottling up for a while. And we've been waiting for certain people to hear certain things. And I don't think I haven't said it in these meetings. I told them, you don't have to let us deal with our anger, and then we can use that and move forward.
The citizens of Flint are understandably frustrated with their government for not providing answers sooner, and we have one of those citizens, an activist, right here. Hi, Laura. So, Laura, what's your involvement here? Your full name, your resident of Flint.
Hi, I'm Laura McIntyre. I'm the campus chair for AFT Michigan Local 6244. I'm a lecturer here at UM Flint, but I'm not supposed to be here in any capacity, and there goes someone who might actually fire me for speaking out. But I am a resident of Flint, native, born and raised here. Yeah, Jen Hogan over there. Born and raised here. Came back after doing some stuff elsewhere.
How have you been involved in the efforts to organize residents right now to get, there were so many people around here. You guys were all organized. What I think a lot of people didn't know is they're communicating with each other. They're on the ground talking to each other. You were crinkling water bottles. How have you been involved in this?
Little civil disobedience for sure. I have so many people here who are like my personal heroes: Claire McClinton, Naira Sharif, Melissa Mays. I mean, so many that I can't even name them all. But Claire McClinton and Naira Sharif are both like co-founders of the Democracy Defense League, and we've been fighting against the financial emergency manager and austerity policies and basically neoliberalism, for a long time, even before the water, crisis hit. And it's not unconnected to those things. So we were right there at the beginning, even before we knew exactly that lead was the problem. We were fighting the high water rates, the illegal high water rates, and the water shutoffs with coalitions in Detroit and Galway and other places around the world. And so that's kind of how I got involved. Just the inspiration of mostly amazing women on the ground, these grassroots activists who've been fighting for decades.
What were some of the things that you did tonight as you listened to the officials present their results from their findings?
Well, it's kind of like have an old playbook where we had water bottles, obviously for the obvious reason that it's a water crisis, it's a man-made disaster, and we all emptied a water bottle and had, they're very loud and crinkly, and anytime someone said something that was not factual or that we didn't agree with or that we didn't like, we crinkled the bottle.
Water quality has improved substantially over the last year. Lead levels have substantially reduced with the phosphate doing its job and putting in place. Chlorine levels have improved and stabilized throughout the system for effective disinfection. And the disinfection byproducts are under control and will remain below proper levels and have remained below proper levels.
There was kind of like a coordinated crinkling, which
Which was disruptive. It was disruptive in a civil disobedience sort of way. And the mayor addressed it at the end.
Right.
She said she heard what you guys were doing. She knew that was a way to communicate. And part of the reason you did this was because nobody was allowed to get up and ask questions.
Correct. In fact, this was supposed to be a closed-door meeting, and we had to really fight to make it open so that we could even be here. And we had to keep our actions secretive in some ways, because what happens a lot is that they'll move the venue at the last minute or cancel the meeting or reschedule it. So we kind of had to do all this through, texting and tweeting and just to try to get people planted around the audience so that, we could be as effective as possible.
Was there anything that you heard tonight from any of the officials that surprised you?
Not really. It was a lot of hot air, a lot of, again, the much ado about nothing. I really wanted more answers. Some of the questions that were asked, I would have liked more direct answers, like yes, no. Is the water safe? Is it not safe? There was just a lot of prevaricating as usual. It was very frustrating.
Okay, so you got up. A lot of folks got up today, frustrated. Once they started opening up the panel for questions, what was the point that made you stand up and say, I've had enough, and what were you trying to say?
This isn't nothing new.
Right.
These little cards that they give you, I put 3 of them in there. Not one of my questions was asked. The last time I did it, we put a sticky note on the wall. I put mine away from everybody. They are selecting what they're going to answer. This is bullshit.
What were you going to ask?
Well, I'm going to ask them, first of all, why is it that you're not letting other people come in here and tell you there's other stuff in this water? We're done with the lead, copper. You've seen the story, I hope, that they're saying it's lead and copper, and we know there's other things. Wayne State, they've proven there's other stuff. Scott Smith, man, he's come in. I can actually tell you right now, I got a 52-page booklet, and there's 9 different chemicals, and I need to buy 6 vials just to get one of them said. And I still can't say it.
Scott Smith is the scientist that has been working with you guys, right?
That's the problem. They're saying he's not a scientist. He's an independent, and Mark Ruffalo and them, they're all working out. I never knew the guy before, but he's come in and did some testing other than Mark Edwards. And just like when Mark Edwards come in, we had his back fully. Well, I found out recently, just by watching the Young Turks, that Mott has come in and given Mott, our big, our grand poobahs of the city, city of Mott, they give him $240,000, and he's gotten other money.
And a grant to do it. Well, it's just to clarify.
Okay, that's what they call it a grant. It's more than I got. I don't want none. I'm just saying, let's call it what it is. It's a grant, which means you have to keep reinventing yourself. You understand? You got to stay true to the course. You're going to do what they want you to do. Well, that's not what we brought Mark Edwards in here for. And I'm not going to deny that this guy's badass. Mark is bad. He's good. I mean, in a good way. You know, he told us it was lead and copper, and we stuck it out. Well, look at it. It's 3 years. You got a young man that broke down today crying. You know why I went over there? Because I was that man last meeting before. The woman, the child, all that. You understand? This shit ain't fixed. They're pushing this under the carpet. What you need to do? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Why do you think that Mark Edwards didn't show up today? He was on camera.
What'd you say?
I mean, because people thought that he was going to be here today.
We knew he was there.
That's how they made it out to sound as though he was going to be here today, but he's too big of a pussy to show up because he don't want to face the people.
Kurt Guyette, investigative reporter for the ACLU of Michigan.
How did you uncover this story?
The first thing was that Miguel Del Toro from the EPA, who's here tonight, did an internal memo basically outlining the problem that using the river water without using corrosion control was causing high levels of lead get into the water. He gave a copy of that memo to Leanne Walters, and Leanne Walters gave a copy of that memo to us because of work that we had already done on the issue. And we published it, and that was really how the word first got out.
When was that?
That was in July of 15. And then the next step was, because the city and the state continued to maintain that the water was safe. And so what we did was come up with the idea of doing an independent citizen-led test with Mark Edwards from Virginia Tech, residents from the city, us working with them. We did these independent tests that proved that the lead levels were much, much higher than the city and state were claiming. The other thing we did was file FOIAs to get information that showed that the reason that they were able to claim that the lead levels were in compliance with federal standards is because they were cheating on their tests, and they were cheating in various ways. And
how were they cheating?
They were cheating by testing homes that were not high-risk homes. Instead of testing high-risk homes as the law requires, they were actually looking for homes where they knew the lead levels were going to be low. Because what happened was that the Michigan MDEQ sent an email to Flint water people saying, your tests are coming in, high levels are showing. You better hope that no more tests come in above the action level, or else you're going to be out of compliance. The next 30 tests that they did, the levels were all well below the action level. And Mark Edwards at one point said, statistically, given the levels of lead that were in the water, statistically, having 30 homes come in below the action level was almost impossible. The only way it would be possible is if you were cheating on a test. It's like shooting dice and using loaded dice. That's the only way that you're going to get the results that you got.
We are very lucky to have the director of Flint Rise, and what is your name?
Naira Sharif.
Naira, before we came on, you were telling me a little bit about it. We noticed it started pouring outside, and everyone goes, "Oh man, it's raining!" And you were telling me how there was a snowstorm yesterday, and you guys staged an action, and you had to walk through the snow. And as you were explaining this, you were explaining why you had to walk through the snow to stage this action, which in itself is extraordinary. But why is it that you guys don't have the streets plowed in Flint?
Well, when we had an emergency manager, and we're still under the emergency manager law, one of the things that the emergency manager did after putting a garbage tax on our property taxes, he privatized the sanitation department, our garbage collection, and they used the garbage trucks in the winter to plow the roads. So we didn't have any garbage trucks. And when the emergency manager privatized it to Republic Services, he sold off the garbage trucks. Like, that was part of the contract. They had to purchase the garbage trucks.
And this happened, as you said, at a very interesting time for Michigan, where you get a lot of snow. What happened?
Yeah, so that happened in 2013, and we basically had the storm of the century. So we didn't have any snow plows, And actually, like the next year, I think that was like 2014, they contracted and got like some John Deere like farming tractors, and they really didn't work out. I remember seeing like a tractor trying to plow my road and was unsuccessful.
So this is just one of the several things that happens when you have an emergency manager, and of course, the water situation is the greatest example here in Flint. You're the director of Flint Rising. Did you hear anything today that made you think, wow, things are starting to change here in Flint?
No, actually, everything I heard, it felt like things are getting worse, and like they're trying to normalize the situation that we're paying for toxic water that we cannot use. We're still paying one of the highest rates in the nation.
This is Nomi Khan's here at the Young Turks, the wonderful mayor of Flint. So this was your first public forum after the meeting that occurred yesterday in Chicago. You were at the meeting in Chicago, correct?
I sure was.
What was the difference that you heard was there any difference in findings from what you heard at the meeting, which was closed doors, versus the meeting here tonight?
Not really. And that was the good thing. And that was what I wanted people to know, is if they said something different, I was going to tell. That was one of the reasons I was there. And I was also there to hear what was going on. The only difference was we had an entire day to really look at the data, and for the scientists to really question each other on, well, mine came out this way. What does that mean as it relates to yours? And so we wanted to have them have time to have that kind of discussion back and forth before we brought it to the residents of the city of Flint. And it's so funny because we thought 3 hours is a really long time, but we filled it up, and really we ran out of time on some of the things we wanted to cover. So we're going to have to do this again.
What was the most surprising discovery out of the data that you that was released yesterday, and the discoveries?
The most surprising? Wow, that's a good question. I think what for me was, I asked them, because that was my first time attending the summit, and I said, what do you know now that you didn't know at the last one? And it was so interesting because it was a good answer. They said, the water quality is better. I said, well, that's not enough. That's our bottom line. That's our goal. But we really need to be able to let people know that we have looked at the chlorine, and we have looked at the phosphates, and we have looked at optimization, and that we shouldn't have problems with the DBPs. I think I'm using the right initials. And we are going to have a best practice come out of how these filters and how you use them. We talked about how even though things are getting better, people are committed to being here. And I was glad to hear some of that they're not going away, and that these resources aren't stopping. And we talked about, some of the good things that we've done. I think one of the things we really had to talk about was messaging, and how do you get that information out when you see you have people that are still angry and upset and mistrustful, and all of those are emotions that are rightfully, they're justified. But we still have to get to a point where we can move past to continue to make things happen. So I don't know if I was surprised by anything. It was just so informative that I was really glad that I went and got to hear it firsthand. And I got to see all of those experts at the table. You hear, well, this group is there and that group is there. But when I walked into the room and I saw there are about 50 people around the table all looking at Flint water, and even more than them, because everybody's looking, it gave me an added level of comfort. I said, we're talking about accountability and trust, but that gives us a whole nother level of accountability when everybody's watching. And so that was, maybe that was kind of surprising for me, because when I walked in, I said, wow, that's right. All of these people are working on this issue. And it was just nice to see us all come together and question each other, and to stay longer than we had planned on.
Was there any conversation about how the water was tested? There was some talk tonight about, well, you haven't gone to my home, you haven't gone to my home, you haven't gone to my home. We also haven't heard.
And that's interesting, because one of the things is it's hard to get to every single home. And so we've asked people, when you're coming up to City Hall, when you're coming to pay your water bill, come bring the water. We've given out test kits too. And so that's what I'm saying. Some of it is we owe it to the residents, but we've got to help each other too. I mean, I took the kit home so I could collect my water and bring it in so it could get tested.
Do we know if there not just testing the sinks, but the bathtubs, the water heaters. Is it hot water? Is it cold water? Because a lot of individuals have said that they're getting different test results because they're doing these cumulative.
I think it's because we're doing it in different places, and that's something that we have to get some more consistency with, because that you bring up a very good point, because you have somebody that may be getting the water from a tub downstairs where they wash their clothes. Well, I learned that, that's not designed for drinking water anyway. It's whatever that tub is made of. So that's not what you're supposed to be using. And so that's what we have to come up with, is putting more, I don't know if standards is, but coming up with a process or a protocol, that's the word I'm looking for, on how we do this. Because the protocol that's been in place right now has really been for kitchen water and your bathroom water. Whether it's been either the sink or the bathtub. But as far as those other things, they were starting to look at that, but we don't have enough information. But I was glad that they were starting to look at that. And maybe when we do this again, we'll have some more information on that, because people did ask about, what about water heaters, those kinds of things.
Last question, because I know you have to go. There's been a lot of talk about a move to privatize the water, and there was a little bit of a conversation about, this management, this agency wasn't working properly. We have to come in and clear this out and make sure everybody's working under proper, code and it's being enforced. And some folks think that this is the slow move to privatize the water systems here. Is there anything that you can say that ensure that your water management is going to be publicly funded, publicly regulated?
That's what I'm working toward, because I want to keep it. I believe in having your own. And so going to privatization is not something that I'm looking at. You always want to explore every single option. So you listen to people, but is that what we want to do? No, not at all. I think it's important for Flint to be a thriving, viable city once again, which that's what we're working toward. We have to have our own. And so it's important that when Jolisa McDay was talking about the water treatment plant and the upgrades that we want to have there, that we make it happen. And that's why we continue to ask for more money, because we're telling them, you all owe us, and you owe it to us to help us make those upgrades so we can stay independent and have our own water. So that's what we're working toward. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you very much. I'm Nomi Kans. We'll be back in a minute with some more interviews. We're live here in Flint at the Water Forum. After the meeting that we went to in Chicago, which was closed doors, they weren't letting press in. This is supposed to be where they're explaining the results of the studies that they've been conducting. Citizens were very frustrated. We're going to go out and talk to some more of those citizens who are voicing their frustrations today at the Flint Water Forum here in Flint, Michigan.